Hello, listeners. Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a quick moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network designed specifically for all the education technology enthusiasts out there. The Higher Ed Geek podcast is a deep dive into the world of educational technology and its transformative impact on the student experience. Geek out each week with host Dustin Ramsdell. His conversations are a mix of engaging storytelling, expert analysis, and a genuine passion for all things higher ed and tech. Whether you're an educator or an administrator or just someone passionate about the intersection of technology and education, this podcast promises to deliver content that's both enlightening and entertaining. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or by searching The Higher Ed Geek wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Talking Tactics, a podcast that gets you results. Each episode features a single tactic implemented with limited resources that moved the needle in enrollment in some way. I'm your host, Day Kibbles, Strategy Director at Ology, a marketing and branding agency for education. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the most clever folks in admissions and enrollment marketing, doing the work day to day, just like you. Talking Tactics is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites, linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com. Oh, hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to Talking Tactics. I'm super excited because our episode today is about one of my favorite things to talk about, email. And if you, like me, like email, then you, like me, are really going to like our guest, Mills-Erickson, because she's here to talk to us about how a simple change in the tone of her subject lines has increased open rates by 20%. Katie is currently a communications and marketing professional at the University of Iowa. She has worked in higher education for the past 5 years, primarily in the realm of admissions. In recent years, her focus has been improving email strategy and further developing the Iowa admissions social media presence. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited and I'm nervous.
There's nothing to be nervous about when it comes to talking about email. Like, there's no better topic, Katie.
That is true.
So before we launch into the tactic, I actually want to share with folks how you and I met. Do you remember how we met?
Of course. I think you were the first person to notice my job as email t-shirt in the session at High Ed Web.
That's exactly it. So Katie was sitting in the audience at a session in High Ed Web, and she's wearing the shirt she's actually wearing right now, but you can't see it. It's this amazing pink t-shirt that says, "My job is email," in the classic Barbie font. And I think I probably stopped mid-presentation to be like, what is that shirt? I need that shirt.
It was great. I became known that day because of this t-shirt. I had a lot of people who really enjoyed it. And I'm like, this is the perfect audience for it. So we got a rep.
Find your email people, and then we'll all wear the shirt. In fact, Katie actually told me where she got the shirt, and I went and got the shirt, and I, too, have the shirt. So we might post it in the show notes. Like, if you want a My Job is Email shirt, get it here. And then that place is going to get all these random purchases.
Right.
They should give you commission.
They should. Yeah. I'm all for that.
All right. We support this hustle. So, all right, let's talk about the email tactic. So you're here to talk to us about how change in tone really changed your open rates and other metrics too. How did this all start? Like, what were you trying to do or solve in your email operation?
Yeah, so email is a sea of sameness in higher ed. I think we run into that all the time. I think every focus group that we've done, students say the same thing. They get too much. They're not opening it. It's all the same. And for a school like Iowa, where we are very quickly having to turn to out of state, like a lot of the Midwest, we really need to stand out. We need to be a school that people are willing to look at, even if, you know, we have this stereotype of corn and pigs and there's nothing there. That's not true. It's really not. So how do we get people to pay attention to what we're sending, especially our prospects who haven't applied yet? And so I think that's the biggest problem that we face in email marketing, period, is getting people to click and open. So our biggest goal moving forward was figuring out a way to stand out and get our name out there without being obnoxious, but increase that open rate. Just get people to pass that first barrier.
And I think this, as you just articulated, is something a lot of people are thinking about and a lot of people wish that they could do. So the tricky thing about that particular goal is that you have literally just the subject line to make this happen, right? So what idea did you come up with to increase those open rates?
Sure. So the one thing to know about me is I'm a little quirky. I'm a little out there. I am definitely an outside of the box thinker. And so the idea that I really wanted to push was we don't have to be this formal personality that we see from a lot of colleges. Yeah. We have the opportunity to be playful, to be a little weird if we want to, and make an impression. And so what that really led to is the idea of changing our tone to be more informal and to try and connect better. You know, I'm a big secret shopper. That's one of my favorite things to do. I have a great story about it that I can't tell right now, but ask me about it sometime. And so I'm able to look and see what other schools are not doing, you know, again, that sea of sameness. So the idea was, let's change our tone, let's be playful, and see what happens, see if that breaks the mold.
Yeah. So I'm really curious as to what that actually looked like. What does playful look like for a big institution, and how does that translate into what you would write in an email?
Absolutely. So my first big break with this was in our yield campaign. We wanted to do something different, and Katelyn Clark was being Katelyn Clark. We had just really gotten on the map with her succeeding in women's basketball. And the idea that I pitched to our Office of Strategic Communications was goats are made at Iowa. Greatest of all time.
Oh, very cute.
Yes, yes. And, you know, we have some space research that was groundbreaking. We have our writing program, of course. And I'm like, yes, we have Katelyn Clark, and she is absolutely the GOAT, but we have other ways we can incorporate that. And it was something we hadn't done before, and it was a little quirky. And once I kind of got the green light there, and people are like, oh, yeah, we like this. I'm like, okay, we're going to push. We're going to take this and we're going to take it a little further. We're going to make puns. We're going to quote song lyrics. We're going to find a way to interact with Gen Z the way they want to be interacted with. And thank goodness I have Gen Z staff, because I don't always hit the mark.
We try to be cool, but
yeah.
I think at some point, just like the cringiness of us trying to be cool is actually cute, right? Like it's endearing. No?
Yes.
No?
I can tell you that my staff at least enjoys it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you kind of you did take this to your Office of Strategic Communications kind of as an idea, and then like once you can show a little bit of results, you start to push. Is there anything else, or can you walk the listeners through like how you implemented this across your email operation?
Absolutely. So I think the first mark that we really had to hit was building trust. You know, I was in this role for 2.5 years before I really got the go ahead. that was the point where they're like, okay, you've been here. We trust that you know what you're doing. Let's give it a chance. So that in itself is a process. And luckily I had a boss who paid attention to my work and I was able to push there. And then he got behind me on it. From there, it was stripping down our campaigns. Where were we saying too much of the wrong thing? And removing the excess. Because if we want to stand out, we can't keep sending the same thing over and over or different iterations of it. So we cut a lot. And then we looked for logical places where we could make use of this new tone. And the most obvious place for us was in our yield campaigns period. So that's where we started this, was these are students who are already committed. They're already interested. Well, I guess not committed. They're at least, they've done the first couple steps. So how are they going to respond to this? Are we going to engage them more with what we're doing? And from there, it was just trying different things and being brave enough to hit the send button on ideas that, a couple years ago, I would have loved to do, but I wouldn't have had the guts to do it.
I mean, it's terrifying to send a mass email, no matter what it is.
Yes.
So did you implement like A/B testing, or did you just like fully go for it?
Oh, see, that's one of my challenges. So I'll skip to that for a minute and we can go back if you'd like to.
Yeah.
We are a homegrown CRM. So our client for email is also homegrown, and we do not have A/B testing. We have, a very limited amount of wiggle room for experimenting. So in that situation, we just had to hit the big scary button. That's the best we could do, and just
jump in.
Yeah.
Leap.
Yes. And, we can look back at year over year in a very manual way, but we can get there. But that's something that I would love to be able to do more directly. But so we just had to take the chance.
So you did it. I mean, and it paid off, right? Like sometimes that's what it takes. It's a little courage.
Yes.
All right. So you decided yield would go first. You started trying some of these new subject lines with different tone. What else? So did you expand it then to something else after you tried it with yield?
We did. So with the success that we saw there, we have started to expand it to our other senior campaigns. We're seeing mixed results because with prospects, it's a different audience group. They're not quite as engaged. But when we hit the mark, we know it. There is a noticeable jump in performance. We've also expanded it to social. We've expanded it to our print pieces. So we're really embracing this new idea and trying to figure out where it fits and who we should target next.
What's interesting for folks to hear, this is a great example of like, even if you have a set brand voice for the institution, that voice, if you think of that as a person, right? They would be a different person if they're speaking to a 17-year-old versus speaking to, a $1 million donor. Like we 100%. All do that. We're more formal with one person. We're less formal with another. So that flexibility should be built into your brand voice. And what I love about this example, Katie, is that you are doing that, right? You're saying, hey, to this audience, we need to relate a little bit differently. We cannot talk to them the same way that we talk to our business partners as an institution, but we're still going to be us. It's just going to be the us that relates to a teenager, right?
100%.
So I love that. Yeah. I'm curious to hear, like, what are your parameters for like what's quirky enough? What's too quirky? Like, did you set up any rules? Are there boundaries? What's your emoji use? Yeah. What are some of your favorite subject lines? Let us have it.
Yes. Okay. So it is a team effort. So I am the manager for our admissions, communications, and marketing, and I have a solitary email coordinator. And so it's been the two of us really bouncing ideas around. And basically, on ones where we're iffy, we put it to a vote. we pull some people in the office, and it's like, okay, my Gen Z friends, like, have we hit it?
Too much?
Have we not? But I am very grateful for my email coordinator because she gets it from the jump. Yeah. She's only been with us for about 1.5 years now, and she is willing to dive full in. She's 100% with me and comes with these ideas. And so I would say we've really not hit quirky enough. I'd say we've tiptoed into cringe and had to pull it back.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think the fun of this has been pushing the envelope a little bit more. Like, okay, this worked and this went well. Can we take it a step further and have a little bit more fun with it? And I have some examples that we used last year for an engineering email that we sent. Yeah. We have a checkbox and it says, I'm not a robot. And then the teaser goes on to say, I'm a Hawkeye engineer.
Very cute.
We have another one that was, oops, looks like you dropped this, ... It's your health science degree from Iowa. And these saw tremendous results. We're talking, an 11% increase in open rate from the year before. But looking at the prior year, we're up 30% from where we were before we started experimenting. Last year, we were able to go a little bit further. We started using emojis. So seeing that progression year over year over year is phenomenal. My favorite one is it's the joining a top-ranked program for me, first name, spilling the tea on life at Iowa with the frog emoji and the teacup emoji.
I love it. Of course that would stand out, right? Like they're not expecting that at all from an institution.
And I should clarify that these are emails that aren't necessarily there's not like that strong call to action in terms of register for an event or you need to do this. These are emails that we're sending to keep students engaged with what their program is doing through the spring. So we can be a little bit more playful. We can share stuff that's a little quirky because at this point, it's all about keeping them engaged as opposed to asking them to complete an item that we really need them to do.
So that's a great point, actually. You're using this primarily right now on those kind of marketing emails.
Correct.
If we want to say it like that. But there's also like the admissions transactional emails, like you're missing a transcript email that like you need to say that point blank, right?
100%. We have not messed with that. If we have that clear, like necessary call to action, we are very much to the point. I do want to clarify that we're not going overboard on everything. This is when we are really trying to show them our personality.
I think that's a really great distinction to really emphasize, right? Like that when it's a single call to action, you must do this to complete the process. Don't play, just say it.
Yes.
Maybe you can be playful a little bit, maybe, but people are looking for transaction in that scenario, right? But I love like those emails that we get thousands of, right, that are just trying to get attention. Well, get attention by doing something cute, right? Yeah. All right. So did it take anything else to implement this? You're a small team, right? So it's just basically all of you being on board, but did you have to ask for permission? Do you have to run these through a leader that approves them? Is there anything else that people would need to know to try to implement?
Yeah, buy-in is incredibly important. And like I said, it took me a little bit to build that relationship with my current director. Since then, I am the final person it needs to run through, which, let me tell you, is not the case for a lot of people. It is a blessing that we take full advantage of. But the other thing that I will say is I mentioned that our email coordinator has only been with us for about 18 months. So at the beginning, it's training the basics. It's training the fundamentals and making sure that you do have a solid understanding of the brand and of your positioning, so you know the boundaries in which you can play. You know, that I think is where people get a little lost is, okay, well, this is our branding and this is how we talk about it. How do you change that, but keep it on brand? And that comes down to learning the fundamentals first and then exploring a bit beyond that. So this isn't something I would recommend just like jumping all in on right away. I'd recommend taking some time to look at what you're doing and see how you can play within the confines of your brand and whatever guidelines that are set. And like you said, really figure out, okay, well, we're not talking to a 20-year-old who understands the college process. In a lot of cases, we're talking to students who might be first generation or who don't know the terminology. So how can we speak to them as equals and not speak down to them too?
Yeah, that's right. So that's great advice. And, you know, as a brand strategist, which is my primary job right now, it's every time we work with a lot of clients all over the country. A lot of people think brand guidelines are just style guidelines, like logo colors, but your brand guidelines should have a personality.
Yes.
They should have messaging. They should have like, how do you relate? What do you say? Type of information in there. And if you don't, and I have worked at schools that don't have that, do exactly what Katie's saying. Like actually sit down with your team, brainstorm, okay, this is who we think we are as a brand. How does that entity relate to our specific audience? And how does that translate into how we speak, what we share, and the tone, and how complicated our language can be and all that. So that's great advice. Thank you. All right. So what challenges, you talked about your homegrown.
Yes.
I can totally imagine this. Been there. Your homegrown email client, I don't know, probably homegrown CRM.
100%.
If you
yes.
have one. Yep. What other challenges did you face in trying to implement this?
I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think a lot of people are going to relate to this, has been turnover. In my 4 years at Iowa, we've had 3 different people in the email coordinator role, including myself. I started there. And so when you're having to go back and train new people, and you're having to do that repetitively, you don't have time to really get to the play. You don't have time to get to the point where you can give a little bit more freedom to the people who are writing the copy. And so I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it's only recently been possible because of the staffing and the relationship I've been able to build with the staff too. So that has been interesting because you have to have the right people in the right roles to make things work too. So that has been a great, boon in the last year, is really building that relationship with our email coordinator and letting her take the reins. And, like the examples of the subject lines I gave, those are mainly hers. We work together, but she is right there, willing and ready to be quirky. So,
well, and how fun is that for you all too, right? Like it's fun for the audience, but it's so much more fun for us if we can have a playful writing moment.
100%. Yes. I think as boring as some emails are, they're worse to write. That just stale, like we've said this 100 times, how can we say it differently?
Yeah.
It's so much more fun when you get to go in and tear it down and rebuild it and do it in a really engaging way. Like if I'm not happy writing it, I know that people aren't going to be happy reading it. So let's figure something out there.
That's the advice right there. Be happy writing it so people can be happy reading it.
Yes.
Love it. Put that on a shirt. So talk to us about results. You've hinted at some already, but what all have you seen?
Yeah, so specifically with email, I mentioned a couple of these subject lines. For each of those, we have seen at least a 10% jump from the previous year and over a 30% jump from the prior year. And so we're seeing great results in our yield emails. I mean, we're looking at open rates in the 80s and 90%.
Oh my gosh.
It's phenomenal what we're doing.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been great in that regard. I'm blown away. And it wasn't really until we connected on this. I had done a little initial digging and I had posted on LinkedIn about the success of my team in the last year. But once, we connected and I really started digging, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have done so much more than I even realized.
Yeah. Wow.
Our software right now doesn't necessarily allow us to easily look year over year. We have to manually go in and find that data. And so we'd just never taken the time to pause and be like, okay, let's really reflect on this. And so I had mentioned that, part of it was removing the excess. Looking at our data in the last year, we've reduced the number of email sends that we have by 30%. We're sending 30% fewer emails, but we're seeing open rates like this. So we're clearly engaging our audience. And I have started looking at the results from our prospect campaigns where we have started implementing this. And we're seeing, 5 to 7% increases. And that's getting us more into the 50%, that area, which for prospects is fantastic for us. Like
that is phenomenal.
We're thrilled. But I do want to say not every change has been a hit. We do have some where it's like, okay, that didn't do as well as we wanted. And that's going to happen. That's what happens when you take risks. It's what happens when you have to go full in and you can't, do the A/B testing or try things out. I'm not cherry picking all the best ones, not sharing all the failures. But I don't think any of them really are failures. It's, we take it and we learn. But on average, looking at our yield campaign, we saw somewhere around a 7% increase in open rate throughout the entire campaign. The ones that I highlighted are just examples of probably the best of the best.
I mean, really, that's all it takes, right? Because when you think about enrollment goals, right? And you think about really in actuality, sometimes it's down to like a handful of more students that you need to commit, or even at the very top of the funnel. Like sometimes maybe all you really need to hit your goal is like 300 more applications, right? Something like that. It's not huge. These small changes in percentages of who gets to see your content, who actually engages with it, like it can have these big results at the end of the day. It really can. It leads to that.
Right. And with you mentioning that, and I mean, I would love to have my team take all the credit for this, because who doesn't? We just brought in, I think, the third largest class in history.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're making strides where we want to. And that has been fantastic, especially as someone who started during the COVID years. I started in 2020 and that was not that was not happening for anybody then. So it's been fantastic to see the journey and to see the results we're getting.
That's fantastic. I'm proud of you and your team. And honestly, that's how I found Katie for the show. She posted about her team successes on LinkedIn. I'm like, would you talk about those on my podcast? And here you are. I love it. If people wanted to contact you to learn more and maybe bounce off ideas with you, where can they reach you?
Yes. So LinkedIn is probably the best place. Full name there is Katelyn Mills-Erickson. That's going to be the most reliable, because I don't really want to give into the craziness that is on a certain other platform. Otherwise,
no.
Otherwise,
platform that shall not be named.
Yes, that's where we're at with that one. Otherwise, feel free to send me an email. My email address is Katelyn Mills, so KATELYN -Mills MILLS @uiowa.edu.
That's awesome. So generous for sharing that with everyone. People are going to be really self-conscious if they do email you and try to find a quirky subject line to include. If you do not write a quirky subject line, do not email.
I will send back grades, out of 10.
So I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment, and we might fail miserably at this. If we were to end this episode like an email, how would you end it?
Oh, I think I like to end on a call to action. That is where I want people to go. So last sentence would be, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a good review, subscribe to the podcast. Call to action is definitely going to be subscribe to the podcast.
Oh my God. I love that.
Yes.
Everybody listen, call to action, subscribe.
Yes. And of course, banner image, if we're going with a banner image, has to be a beautiful screenshot or a picture in these shirts.
A picture of the My Job is Email shirt.
Yes.
I will share one of those. I will share the picture online for everyone to see. And I like to add to the end of my emails a PS because people actually look at it.
All right.
So here it is. Here it is for the very end. PS. Keep walking the walk and talking the tactics. The Talking Tactics podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions pros find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's bests as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Jenny Lee Fowler, Jeremy Tears, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed too. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com.